It's very tough because I started in 1970 was my first camp, and that's when Ron Lancaster was really in his heyday, and so I used to come over here and help Sandy Archer with training camp and game days and things like that. So it's very difficult.
Any particular memories stand out for you?
Well, to be quite honest, I'm going to say this: in 1978, which was his last year, we played the last league game in Commonwealth Stadium, and I know that the game prior to that, I know that the fans were terribly on Ron Lancaster. As you know, quarterbacks here have a very poor relationship with the crowd. But in Edmonton, he got a standing ovation when he scored a touchdown. The last touchdown that he scored, and it was right at the very end of the game, and I think that was commendable for the fans of Edmonton.
What kind of guy was he in the dressing room, having been around this locker room for so long? I mean, is he the kind of guy that you would think that most people look up to him? Was that the case in the locker room?
Oh, very much so. I mean, he was a leader, and the team basically went how Ron Lancaster and George Reed and those guys went in those days, and so. But he was a very tough individual, not only physically but mentally, and. In my opinion, in order to win a Grey Cup, that's what you have to have. I mean, Kent Austin was like that, and Kerry Joseph was like that. You have to be physically and mentally tough at that position to to be successful, and he was.
Did you see him much in your room?
No, very little. I mean, he could. I mean, I can remember him having fractured ribs, and you wouldn't see him. He'd put his flak jacket on, and away he'd go. And that's the type of person he was. And he let everybody else know, that this was a physical game, and you had to be tough to play it.
What does the loss of Saskatchewan's loss on this?
Well, I think, let's face it. His name is on the stadium here. It's on the front in his picture. I think people here just emulated him and thought he was probably one of the great people of Saskatchewan. So I think that people will mourn him for a while.
Ivan, is he one of the reasons why there's such a love affair between this football team and the people of this province?
I think so. Let's face it. Between Ron and George and Ken Preston and all those people in that era. I think that's why people do love the Riders, and because I think they put them on the map.
Did he take his position as the name in the face of the organization graciously, or was it begrudgingly that he was kind of the guy that he was? Everyone kind of heaped it on him, and he was the organization. How did he react to that?
Well, I think that I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that question.
Just that he was made to be the face of the franchise and the face of the organization.
Right.
And a lot of guys might not necessarily take that, all that well. It's a lot of pressure to heap on the guy.
Well, it is. Let's face it. The situation that he was in 1979 and 80 as a head coach. Just having finished being a player, it's very difficult to begin with. But not only that. You had a team that was very, had very, poor in talent and lacking talent, and so. It was a very difficult job, but at the same time, the 2 years that he was here, he was 14 and 28. But at the same time, when Joe Ferrigalli came in here in '81, I think he reaped the benefits because all the things that he had put into place, like the Roger Aldags and the Bob Poleys and the Brian Ellerbrins, all those kinds of things. Joe Ferrigalli reaped from that because that year we were 9-7, but he was the person that had all the starting blocks or the basis for the team to to become somewhat back to respectability.
Thanks. Give us your thoughts on a tough day tomorrow.
Yeah, Coach Lancaster was my first coach, and he's probably the reason I'm here. He talked me into accepting this job when I was pretty young, and I owe a lot to him.
Any specific memory that stands out above all the ones that you've got?
Well, I think that for me, it was the ability for Ron to make you feel part of his staff. He made a point of letting the players know that whether it was myself or Ivan or even the ball boy, that you were to show respect and respect our positions, and anyone that crossed them, he got rid of them. Period. There was no question. So, he made the job a lot easier.
Any special relationships that you had with Ron in terms of like game day, with Aldag and the little quirks they have before a game, anything like that with Ron?
Not really. Ronnie would let you know what he wanted beforehand, and as long as you did your job, he was fine to work with. He would always come and ask, can we practice an extra half hour? You're packing to leave to BC or wherever. Do you need anything special? So he was good that way, and he didn't really have any quirks. you know, game day was game day. You got ready and you did your job.
Did he become a different person on game day?
From when he started here, and then I remember speaking with him when he was working with CBC we were playing in Edmonton, and I sat with him in the lobby one morning, and he said, you know, Norm, he said, I've really learned a lot working for CBC, and some of the things I did in Saskatchewan as a coach, I wouldn't do that again. And I think his couple years he spent here was a learning experience for him. And when he went on to Edmonton, a lot of the things that he learned here not to do, he instituted in Edmonton and made him a better coach.
Do you get a sense for the fact that today's players understand what a guy like that meant to the organization, or?
Yeah, I think so. You know, when they come to the stadium every day and see Ronnie and George, their picture in the front of the stadium, I think that they can relate to that, and that it takes a pretty special person to get a poster that big on the outside of the stadium, no matter who it is. And yeah, I think they respect that.
Thanks, Don.